there's something special about New Mexico. The sky is really amazing here. The sunsets, the climate. It's a special place, and I really encourage people to come and stay here. People really experience a difference. And I've been lucky to be a participant in a number of retreats over here too. And so it's just interesting and fun for me to see how different people use the space and what they do and to take advantage of the offerings that come here.
Hi everybody, Amir and Lindsay here with Retreat Finder, and today we're joined by Elizabeth from Vista Verde Retreat, the retreat center venue in New Mexico. And not everybody knows a lot about New Mexico. It's a little bit kind of isolated, but it's outside of Taos, New Mexico. Just to kick things off here, I'm going to show a map of where this is.
I think I read it's about 45 minutes from Taos.
It's about 40 minutes outside of Taos, and then we're 25 minutes outside of Caliente, which is not known for much other than its famous hot springs, mineral springs. So that's a real plus.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, here's in Mexico. We're zooming in. Main city in New Mexico, Albuquerque. So this is north of Albuquerque and north of Santa Fe. But Taos is a well-known destination in New Mexico, and Taos is here. So it's about 45 minutes from Taos. And so this is in high desert, I think is what it's called. The environment is high desert, and you're surrounded by a juniper tree forest, which I was looking that up.
Let me correct you there, Amir. It's actually juniper and pinon. We have more pinons than junipers, but it's a combination of both, which is a common forest to have in New Mexico, but ours is super tall, and we think it's because of the sandy soil. Like you don't see trees this tall or this prolific in other parts of New Mexico.
This is what I like, the kind of sandy soil piece. So it's all like you're walking on a beach almost, but there's no water anywhere. It's desert. And from our original conversation, first of all, welcome to the call. I'm just like going straight in here. Elizabeth is the owner of Vista Verde Retreat. And what was interesting is I had a call with Elizabeth before. She's from San Francisco. You spent a lifetime in San Francisco Bay Area.
Well, actually, I got to correct you there too, because I'm actually from the East Coast. I'm way more of a Yankee. I'll never be a California girl, even though I lived there 20 years and I loved it. I'm originally from New York City and was raised in northeastern Pennsylvania, which is very rural. Then I moved to New York City again and finished high school there. And I lived in cities for 20 years. But that's my whole upbringing in the country, and then living in cities for years, which I loved, is the thing that caused me to create this retreat center out in the middle of the forest, because I felt it was really important to bring people out to nature, especially people living in cities.
So what was the inspiration? Because 20 years in the Bay Area, big city life, and then did you just get tired of the city life? What was your inspiration for coming out into the high desert here?
Well, it's really funny because many years ago, it was back in 1990, I had a friend who had moved to New Mexico, and I was busy visiting friends that lived around the U.S. because I didn't know the United States all that well. I traveled to Europe, but I'd never seen that much of our country other than the East Coast. So I went to Santa Fe to visit her, and I fell in love with it, but I had I had this strong feeling like I want to move to New Mexico someday, but I didn't feel like it was going to be Santa Fe. And then a few years later, I came and visited another friend in Taos. And then we started, actually, it was a boyfriend, and then we started looking for land, and we were looking for land like out in the country, because Taos is pretty small anyway. And so my feeling has always been, like when I got older, which I am now, was to create a retreat center in nature. I didn't want to have one in the middle of town. The whole goal is to bring people out for art and healing was my original plan. And what better place to be than in New Mexico and in the forest and near Caliente mineral springs and in the land of enchantment and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point, because you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. I was reading our notes here. It's in the middle of nowhere, but you're accessible. So it acts as a great place to come and have kind of solitude, but it's also a good jump point to go have a lot of different excursions and experiences, right?
Absolutely. Despite the fact that when you're out here, the feeling is like, oh my God, we're in the middle of nowhere. It's really not, because it's super centrally located to northern New Mexico spots. We've got, like I said, Taos is 40 minutes away. Caliente is 25 minutes away. We're still only 90 minutes away from Santa Fe. We're not that far from the Enchanted Circle, which is the mountains up behind Taos. We're pretty close to Abiquiu, which is where George O'Keeffe spent a lot of time, and there's Ghost Ranch there. So, if you want to come and visit northern New Mexico, which is really where it's at, I think this is the place to come, especially if you like being out in nature and don't want like a city or an urban experience, just maybe a day trip, And we have also the Indian cliff dwellings of Puye and Bandelier, which aren't very far either. They're also within, an hour and a half. So you can do these great day trips if you're coming here to see sights. It's really
and
well.
Ojo Caliente, that's the hot springs.
Yes, yeah, that's the
hot
famous mineral
springs,
springs. Yes.
accessible too.
Beautiful.
And Lindsay, we're going to get you involved here in just a second. But what was also interesting is that it's a collection of properties that you acquired over time. And so if people are looking at the website, it's really kind of funky and interesting. And let me see if I can pull up on your photo gallery. You've got a map of the properties. There's actually 3 different properties.
Yes.
And
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Here's this. So you were telling me your history. You first bought this main house.
Well, actually, no. Let me go back and tell you. I'll explain it that way.
Okay,
It'll
just
be
explain it because I'm getting it all
it'll
wrong.
be easier, so you won't have to worry. So actually, how it started was I built my own house and moved here, which is not on the map. I'm across the road and down a bit, but I had a good friend of mine from Sausalito, which is where I was coming from, who was also an artist like I am. And we were talking, and she said, I always wanted to, have a place and have artist retreats. And she came out to visit. And so she and I and her brother bought the Q house, which is all the way on the right of the map. And so we bought that house. It was very dilapidated, and we renovated it. Then we also, I built
the
this
Q house.
Yeah,
the Q,
that's
beautiful
the Q house.
See, it's got that really cool Santa Fe vibe. This like one story.
Yeah, the Adobe.
The Adobe house vibe.
Yes.
This was the first one that you had bought.
Yes, and we massively renovated it. It's an interesting home because it doesn't have any bedrooms, so it's ideal for a couple, or our original idea was that would be kind of the main house and the hub where we would, do our art retreats, and then we were going to build a bunch of casitas. Well, I just built one casita, and then my business partners and I I built that one, the stick casita. And so that's where it all started. But my business partner, she and her brother and I, we weren't quite on the same page as a little time went by. So what was really interesting was I bought this place 2007. And then in 2010, my next door neighbors who owned the main house, had moved to Santa Fe. We're coming up here hosting writers' workshops at the main house, which is right in the center. And they came over and approached me because they wanted to sell. And it was really interesting. On October 1st, I think it was, of 2010, I bought my business partners out, and I bought the main house property. It didn't have the studio on it, and it didn't have, one of the casitas was just a shack. But I closed on both of those properties on the same day, and neither party knew the other deal was going on. But anyway, so that's how I got most of the retreat center. And then I went on to build the studio, which is the dance studio. There was nothing there. If we go to the map there, yeah, that's right there.
You bought the main house and the ranch house together at the same time?
No. The ranch house was another dilapidated property. And so I bought the main house, and it had the adobe casita and the straw bale casita. The green hut was just a shed. So I renovated, it all needed renovations, even though, the women were hosting writers' retreats. I wanted to change it and do some things and add some bathrooms and all of that. And so what I ended up doing is working on that place for a while. And I just rented the Q house out to a long-term renter, to keep the money coming in, because I wasn't ready to, pull a whole retreat center together. And then finally, I opened a couple years after that. It'll be 13 years this September. So we opened in 2012 in September. No ranch house. There was no ranch property. That property came 7 years later, 5 years later, in 2017. I had just finished renovating what's now the Green Hut, which was literally a shack, a shed right outside the main house. So we just turned it into a little simple casita. And after I did that, I said, all righty, what am I to do next? Because I was going to rent the retreat center out. Do I go back to doing my own artwork? What do I do? Yeah. 7 days later, the ranch property became available. I couldn't believe it. And it was a real mess. I mean, there was no water there. We had to put in a well. All the houses were really run down. I mean, it was, yeah. Yep. And so we renovated that and did a lot. Yeah.
And then, so basically, it's a compound, a collection of structures that are sort of interconnected through walkways and pathways on dirt roads.
Yes.
And then the studio came into play. There's the two sort of big event spaces. I mean, you can gather in each of these spaces, but most of them are residential. Then you got the studio and the playhouse. So here's the playhouse. So this is more recent, right?
Yeah, oh, that's our most recent building. That's the last building I did, and that used to be a house. It was someone's residence, and I massively renovated it. You can go on my other website, elizabethbrownrigg.com, and see all the before and after pictures. I needed a bigger place so that I could host up to 30 to 50 people, because the main house kitchen is pretty good, and we can do maybe 15, 20 people, but I needed a space that was more for events and that I could host more people there.
It's a little bit better. It's an upgraded kitchen versus a residential kitchen in the individual buildings.
Yes. And then there's more dining space. Then they can do performances. We even have we have some platforms we can set up as a stage. So that we've had birthday parties there. I mean, it's only been online for like a year and a half. So we've had a couple of birthday parties there, and we had a wedding there so far. And then with some of the larger retreat groups, they've needed to rent that space for the kitchen and, for the dining area.
You can do art. What were you telling me about the art? People can paint it up and get it messy, or what was it?
Yeah, well, the floor is painted. So now instead of having to have our art workshops in the studio, and that was a production because we had to cover the dance floor. Now I can just have art workshops there because the floor is just a painted concrete floor. So if people get paint on the floor, it's not a big deal. And we don't want paint on the walls or on the paintings that are up there now because they're all my paintings, but it's much more conducive to having art retreats in that building because we can also just put plastic on the tables, and it makes it really easy. And then the studio, with that, we have a really nice sprung floor there. That's the studio. And that and the stick casita are the only two buildings I built from the ground up. Everything was massively renovated. And this building has it was going to be an art studio originally. And then I did a weekend-long dance workshop. And I said, okay, I have to put a dance floor in. And so that's when I built this. I built it with that dance floor. It's a sprung floor. So it's a great meeting space if you don't need to bring any food or drink or shoes in there. It's really nice for people to go in there and, have group meetings, do yoga, do dance. We have plastic chairs as well that we can set up in there. So, it just
sprung
depends.
Floor means, for people that may not know, it's got some give to it. That a little bit of give makes it easier on the joints. So if you got dance workshops, or if you're standing for a long period of time, you could do a painting workshop. Yoga is really good. So that little bit of give makes it softer on the joints.
Oh, that's really key, especially if you're going to do a dance retreat, because you can't dance for, 4 or 5 hours on a regular hard floor. I mean, you can go out dancing and two-stepping and stuff at bars and saloons and stuff. But basically, you really need to have a sprung floor in order to, do dance. Otherwise, people start getting hurt.
And how do people, so you talked about the people who come through, which you've got like creative retreats, dance retreats, writing retreats. Are people renting out the whole facility? I also noticed on your website that you have just families that come and rent some of the spaces as well, just to stay. So are people doing mostly a buyout of the whole venue, or do you have multiple retreats going at
it really varies. Yeah, it really varies because we can rent out the whole place all at once, which we just did. And then we can rent out 3 separate properties because each of the 3 properties has their own entrance. And so often, like the next group that's coming, we've got 2 people coming to just the stick casita, which is over to the right. I rent that out a lot. We have another group that's coming that will just rent out the main house and maybe 2 or 3 of those casitas. Then we have people coming to rent the ranch house. So, and often a group will rent out the main house and the ranch house properties, but they don't need maybe the Q house, or maybe they don't even need the Q or the stick casita. So I can rent to anywhere from a single person who wants to go on their own personal retreat. Then we put them up in the little stick casita because they have a kitchenette in that casita and a full bathroom, or we can rent up to 30 people that come and have the whole place. So any combination of those. Yeah.
So total capacity is up to 30 for the whole property, and you get the run of the place.
Yes. Yep.
You had mentioned earlier 30 to 50. Does that mean like 50 if you were having just people come in one of the larger spaces?
Well, 50 would be if 20 other people came from outside. Like, for example, say you came and had a birthday party, like, you know, a neighbor of mine had a big birthday party. And so they rented out the whole place. And then they had other people, because they were local, they had other people coming in from other places that were staying either back in town or wherever they lived, or rented someplace else. But we can put
30 for overnight capacity, 50 total event capacity.
Yes, if we're doing an event, Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then there's the other element to this too, which is the horse run-in. It's not
we have horse pens. You can call them pens or run-ins. I think stable is a little too glorified, because when I think of stable, I think of another friend who has this amazing stable that you could live in, you know. But yes, and it's so interesting. We haven't had any takers for horses yet. These horse utilities were there. I renovated this one. We actually renovated that barn. We ripped it down and built it up again. And then I have a couple of other run-ins as well, but we haven't had any takers. So at least it looks good. But, you know, I still haven't had any people come to do horse retreats, but that may happen in the future. So
how'd that even work? They got to like haul in their horses on their own trailers, and
well, that's what people do when they travel. They have they have horse trailers, and they bring their horses and they bring all their tack and gear. But having the sandy soil here and then being so close to the national forest, it's really ideal for bringing horses and having people go on trails, because the soil is so soft and sandy. It's really nice for horses and their hooves, and they like it. So it's a good place to have horses. And then we have these two trails that, I mean, it takes 10 minutes to walk your horse on the trail, but if you're a human and you're on foot, it's a couple of miles of trails that we have. So it's about maybe 20 minutes for the first loop trail, and then if you add on the second, it's another 10 minutes. So yeah.
Beautiful.
I love this dry desert climate. Are there horse riding vendors around that if I wanted to do horse riding and I didn't have my own horse, I could go do?
Yes, there are. About 25 minutes away, you can go down to Pilar, which is, well, actually it's more, it's about 25, 30 minutes away. And the woman she has La Cienegua stables down there. So you can go down there and do horseback riding with her. Or she's also hooked up with some river rafters, because you have to go down through the river that way. So then you can do a saddle and paddle deal as well, I think.
Saddle and paddle.
Yeah, I've not done that. I've gone on the river, I've ridden horses, but I've never done the two together.
So, I mean, look, there's a lot of ingredients to play with here to create a retreat. Even if, like you said, anything from a personal retreat, somebody can come and get the casita, maybe a couple or an individual can get the casita, and then, or small group of friends, larger group for more proper group program. And you not only have the studio and the playhouse to conduct sessions in, but then you got these like excursions that are available too.
Absolutely. And we allow people to bring their own cooks. I don't get involved at all in the food. I have cooks that you can hire directly that I have on my website. They've all worked here. They're all great. And there's other offerings up there too. So it's a really set up so that you can basically create your own retreat and hire in people. You know, you can hire music in, as well as, like I was saying, cooks, massage therapists. I do clairvoyant readings and astrology readings. And I've, gone over to retreat centers and had a lot of fun reading people. We just had an afternoon of readings, whoever wanted a reading, and they put me in a room, and then people just came in and I was doing readings for them, and it's very fun. I enjoy that.
So if somebody comes on a personal retreat, you could provide some, you could be a practitioner that's available to them as well.
Yes, right. Absolutely.
Look at this, 4.9 stars. I don't know what the legality is. I got to look into this. I don't know if if I'm allowed to show Google reviews, but people are loving this place. And people are just raving about your personality and your warmth and how you welcome people. here's people actually in the studio. Credit to whoever the Rooted Renewal Wellness.
Oh yeah, yeah, they did. They had a nice retreat here, and it's great when they post those pictures there. And
Yeah, so
yeah,
then you can see how the space is used. That's great.
yes,
But this is them
yeah.
on the sprung floor doing yoga. And then there is, okay, so one thing we missed here is the cold plunge. You got a hot tub and a cold plunge?
Yes, it's only a 3-seater hot tub, but it's ideal for the ranch, and it's wood fired. So it's, it takes some work. You've got to get it fired up in the winter. I think it takes maybe up to 4 hours, but people are into it. And it's a nice 3-seater. And then we have a cold plunge, which is basically a horse trough that it was never used as such. But then we just fill it up with cold water, and then you can go from the wood fired hot tub to the cold plunge.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of everything. I love this.
Yeah.
It's a lot to play with. It's a lot of sort of facilities to play with and create a retreat.
And what's the seasonality like? I saw snow in winter on one of the photos, and summer, I assume, quite warm. So what are we talking about, what people are looking at for the season?
Well, New Mexico, we're pretty high. First of all, we're 7,000 feet. And so, yeah, it's quite high. And then we've got beautiful ski resorts nearby within an hour and a half. Taos is less than an hour. Great skiing there. Then we have 3 other ski resorts that are less steep and less expensive. We have Red River, which is about an hour and 15 minutes. Sipapu, which is really family friendly. And then Angel Fire, which is also good. So we have those. And you could go down to Santa Fe. That's an hour and a half, maybe farther.
You could do a day trip. You could do a day trip and go skiing and come back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I ski regularly, so, but it's great because we don't get like usually a whole skiing crowd. They like, if the whole group is skiers, they like to stay closer. But for families that have a few people that like to enjoy skiing, then we do have options for them. And that's really sweet. And then the summer does get quite hot. And this is also a very dry climate too. So we always encourage people to drink lots of water. I encourage people to even start taking chloroxygen, which is a tincture that you can get in a health food store a week before you come here, especially teenagers, because they tend to suffer more from altitude sickness than other people. But hydrating yourself and taking chloroxygen about a week before you come really helps mitigate any altitude sickness, because that's not very fun. But yeah.
I find there's a couple of times I've been in sort of high elevation desert environments, Burning Man, some couple other places. And I noticed that like my body kind of changes while I'm there because the altitude is different and it's drier. So I don't know. I feel like I might be getting old, but I feel like when I'm in these dry, high altitude places, I have less aches and pains. For some reason, my body can relax a little bit more. Inflammation in my body goes down. I don't know if that's a medical or technical thing. That's just my experience.
That could be. It varies for people. Like some people really need and thrive in a high and dry climate, and other people don't do so well in that. And then some people do well in moist and humid climates where other people don't. So it depends on your body and everything and all of that. But
I grew up in Texas, right? So it's like that humid 100-degree humidity, and my brain starts shutting down, and I just can't even operate in that environment. Other people love it; they're just like walking around and enjoying the heat.
Yeah,
Lindsay, you're a hot person. You're a hot.
I'm a hot person. I'm very petite, so like I get cold really easily, and so I'm originally from the East Coast, from Maryland, so close to where you're from, northern eastern Pennsylvania. And gravitated towards Florida. I lived in Arizona for a while, and then now in Australia. So, and where I'm at in Australia is subtropical. So
yes.
like,
you're going to love it when we go to our next Costa Rica road trip. You should come. You're going to love that. It's hot and humid.
Yes, love Costa Rica. Well, this climate here is similar to certain parts, especially northern Arizona, like around the Flagstaff area. Very similar climate where, we've got, it's desert, but it's not like the Sahara Desert. It's, have a lot of sage, which isn't even native here. It's invasive, but sage, juniper, pinon. Then you get higher up and you get the Engelmann spruce and Douglas fir trees and all of that. And I found that the cold and the heat are much easier to deal with than back east. Back east, it gets 80 and it's 100% humidity and you're dying and you have to have air conditioning. Well, here 80 is awesome. If 95 isn't really a problem. I mean, I've never had any air conditioning. So 95 really isn't too much of a problem unless you're toiling away in the heat or something or in the sun. That's a little different, but it's way different. And then I was worried because I'd lived in San Francisco for 20 years. I was worried, like, how am I going to deal with the winter? I haven't had a winter since like New York and Pennsylvania. And no, the winters here are great because it's sunny. Oftentimes it'll get up to 50 degrees in the middle of the day, but we'll have snow. It can also get to minus 30 at night too. I mean, we're talking Fahrenheit here, but still minus 30 is rare, but you don't want to go outside when
That's cold.
Yeah, that's very cold. Yeah.
That's very cold.
That's very rare, but it does happen. And one year we had it minus 30, I think, every night for 2 or 3 weeks. And there were a lot of problems with, people's heating. I was fine. I have wood stoves and stuff, but there was also a whole cold snap. I think one in Texas. Then there was an issue of getting natural gas up to Taos. I know Taos had a huge problem. I'm out in, the woods, so I'm on propane. It wasn't an issue, but,
You're off grid. You got your own supply of everything.
Well, not totally off grid. I don't want to say that because I did live my own house. My personal house was off grid for many years. Now I have a grid backup. With the retreat center, we don't have natural gas. We have propane, but we are on electricity. So people don't have to worry. I mean, I have one building that does have solar. That's a green hut. So that, we didn't want to run electricity to that. It was just easy enough to put in a little solar thing so you can read at night and charge your cell phone. So, yeah.
How about getting there? What are we talking about? Where are we flying into? What's getting there like?
Well, normally most people would fly into our sun port in Albuquerque. I think we have the only state in the union that doesn't have a major airport in the capital. Our capital is Santa Fe, but the major airport is the Albuquerque sun port. People have flown into Santa Fe. That airport it has 2 gates. It's really small. I think they might be expanding it. I'm not sure, but it's only 45 minutes closer. So it's usually easier to fly into Albuquerque. However, Taos Regional Airport, they're starting, they've had a number of direct flights to Taos, to Texas, to a couple places in Texas, and I believe California, and I think they're expanding. And the Taos Airport is only 30 minutes from me, not 2 hours and 15 minutes like the Albuquerque Airport.
And they have rental cars in Taos? You can pick up a car in Taos?
Yeah, I think you can. Yes, I'm sure they have rentals there. I haven't flown in or out of the Taos Regional Airport yet, but I think that they do have rental car places, or at least, you can get to a rental car place, I'm sure. But no, it's really nice to have that. But the good thing is that even when people fly into Albuquerque, they rent their cars and then they come through Santa Fe and then they can pick up whatever food items or whatever items they want, and then they're supplied for the trip. So that's what the advantage is.
And it's a nice driving through the desert. It's a good drive.
Yes, especially if you're not familiar with this area. People from back east are like, oh my goodness, I've never seen a climate like this. I've never seen landscape like this. So, yeah.
Feel like you're in the Wild West.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we have a listing on Retreat Finder right now for the retreat center listing, for venue rental, for groups, as well as the personal retreat. We were talking a little bit about some of the concepts for personal retreats. How can you envision somebody coming there for a personal retreat, either as an individual or a couple?
Individuals come to get projects done. Like I've had people come to write their book, or people to come and, focus on something. I've had groups come and do like just their work study thing because they're not distracted by a city. They wanted to get away, and then they can get a lot done and still then have kind of a vacation, like a working vacation as well. Couples have come out here because they want to explore the wonderful things about northern New Mexico. We'll have individuals come out and do that as well. People in transition in their life. Also, people just passing through will come by. I've been getting a number of people renting out the stick casita because it's simple, it's affordable, and especially during the week, it's often available. So that's worked out for people as well. And then people who just want to get away in nature. I've had people come here doing that too. And
desert nature is different from, because I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. Our audience has heard me talk about it a lot. We've got mountains and rainforest, and it's like thick, lush nature. Desert nature is different. I love it. It's really open, and there's a peacefulness to it. And I don't know, I find it really soothing and calming to be in desert environments. And like Elizabeth was saying, desert doesn't mean like sub-Saharan Africa with sand dunes. It's just dry with drier vegetation. It's different. So in terms of groups then, art retreats, whether they're fine art with painting or performing arts, we can put up a stage. We can do dancing retreats. We can
Horse
do
retreats.
horse retreats. Yeah, equine retreats.
Writers' retreats. That was what
Writers'
the
retreats.
first, the main house was originally used for. I mean, these two women built the main house themselves. I mean, I massively renovated it, but they built the main house and they built two of the three casitas there. And then they were hosting their own, even though one of them was an artist and the other was a writer, they were hosting mostly writers' retreats. And finally, like 13 years later, just 2 months ago, one of the women came back and just hosted a retreat back in April. I mean, we've still maintained a friendship. She's down in Santa Fe. So finally, she started doing her own wellness stuff and did a writer's, it was writing and art and wellness all together. So it was really cool.
Is it? So a lot of the creative stuff, is there a creative wellness practitioner community around? Like if we wanted to get
in Taos and Santa Fe, very much so. I mean, we've got art and healing out here, and that's what I'm all about too. I still am an artist, but I was an artist, and I've been doing these clairvoyant readings for 30 years and astrology, and so. Excuse me.
We should do an RF Destinations on Taos. It's a real hotspot.
Sounds like it'd be great. We've got a segment of our audience that's very keen on creative arts, like that whole, they're gonna love this. They're really gonna love this center and what it has to offer. We often have people asking us about creative retreats.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, as an artist myself, all of the artwork in the retreat is mine. I tell people that, and sometimes I forget to tell them, but when I tell them, often I will sell a painting off the wall. So that's good. Yeah. You never know if I just
come for a retreat, leave with a painting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Look, I think we covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything else that you think people should know about as they're looking at the listing? What are we missing?
It's called the Land of Enchantment for a good reason. I mean, there's something special about New Mexico. I mean, there are pros and cons, but we like the special in the positive way. And the sky is really amazing here. The sunsets, the climate. And just because I am so close to Taos, I mean, Taos is just such a wonderful town and has a lot to see and do. And we have a couple of decent restaurants. But it's a special place, and I really encourage people to come and stay here because and stay for more than a couple of days. The longer you can stay, the better, because you have it's coming to the Southwest is not easy to get to, say from the East Coast, for example, but it is more from Texas and California, for example. But it's people really experience a difference when they're here for 3 or 4 or 5 days. Then you're away from the harried stuff, especially if you stay on site or don't go too far, just are interested in the northern New Mexico sites. Then it's super special. Mm-hmm.
Land of Enchantment. Is that a New Mexico phrase, or is that a?
Yeah, that's the title for New Mexico. Like Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. What is Maryland? Do you remember, Lindsay, what Maryland was?
I don't know. The Blue Crab State. I don't know. Maybe
Texas was just. I think Texas's motto is "Don't mess with Texas." I don't know if they have a like.
No, the Lone Star State.
It's the Lone Star State.
How do we know that over you?
It's been a while. I've been there. Lone Star State.
Apparently New Mexico went through a couple of different titles, and it's been the Land of Enchantment now for a long time. I mean, that's usually on our license plates, but that's called the Land of Enchantment. I think Florida is the Sunshine State, and California is the Golden State. I mean, those are the states I know because I live there, but not Florida, but I've been there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful.
Listen, New Mexico is giving Sedona a run for its money, right? In terms of spirituality and art. So come and check it out. Everybody talks about it. And, this whole thing around convenience, it's okay if you have to take a flight and drive a car, like go on the retreat. But getting there is part of the journey. It doesn't have to be super convenient everywhere you go. So I always try to I'm encouraging people to step beyond their boundaries of convenience for something that could be an amazing experience.
Yes, that's a good point, because I'm such a convenience queen, but I know that when I step out of my little convenience box, I usually have better experiences if I know the thing is a good thing. And it's not like it's horribly inconvenient to be here, because it's nice, and you get a slice of New Mexico life that is different from just renting a hotel in Taos or
Right.
something. I mean, that's nice too, but this is a whole different experience. And plus it's nice to, you're here in homes as well. It's not, there's nothing hotel-y or commercial about it at all. I mean, I basically renovated houses, so you're in houses, and it feels like that. And so it's nice because you can, connect with the group that you're with, whether it's your family or your retreat or your friends, interact, and then everybody has their own separate spaces, but there are, a number of nice spaces to convene. And I've been lucky to be a participant in a number of retreats over here too. And so it's just interesting and fun for me to see how different people use the space and what they do, and to take advantage of the offerings that come here. So
Yeah, I love that you've got the central places where everybody can gather, but then everybody can have their own individual domiciles and their own places. Is there some big bell that you can ring when lunch is ready? Is there like a big country bell?
Well, noise travels really far here, and I always remind people of that when I'm giving the orientations, because you can be 50, 100 feet away from somebody and it sounds like they're 6 feet away. So I say, whatever you do, don't gossip, because the trees will carry it. So anyway, but yeah, people have hung, beat on drums when it was time to gather, or, gone outside and rung a bell or something. But yeah, noise travels pretty far here. So.
Okay, everybody. Vista Verde Retreat Center in northwestern New Mexico, in the high desert of New Mexico. Go check it out. Really funky, really cute, homey, and dry desert environment. I can't wait to come visit myself. I look forward to it.
I would love that. And thank you both for this interview. It's so nice to meet you. And Lindsay and Amir, we've talked before, so great. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Elizabeth.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Lindsay, for joining this installment of RF Talks.
Yeah, pleasure.